NUS, the lion doesn't rule, it attracts. Like a black hole consuming light, it draws in attention, energy, destinies. Vanga saw that behind its benevolent crown lies not power but hunger, not vanity, but an emptiness that can only be filled with adoration. Its strength isn't in its roar, but in its silence, when the whole world holds its breath, awaiting its gaze. This isn't a king. It's a law, not aggression, but a magnetism capable of distorting reality around it. Its love isn't tenderness, but a demand to exist through it. And in this lies the first of 16 reasons why, according to Vanga's prophecy, the lion is more dangerous than any predator. The lion doesn't just shine, it blinds. Imagine you're at a party, conversations, laughter, music. The lion walks in, doesn't shout, doesn't wave its hands, just enters. And suddenly, silence. Everyone turns. The air thickens, other smiles fade, words get stuck. Why? Because its presence is like the midday sun. You can't look directly. You squint, you hide, you stop being yourself. The lion is ruled by the sun. This isn't a metaphor, it's energy. It doesn't ask for attention, it takes it, like a magnet draws iron filings, and the brighter it is, the dimmer you become. It doesn't pressure, it simply exists. And you disappear. Your thought? It interrupts it. Your humor? It fades beside its brilliance. Your pain? It notices it like a king notices a speck of dust on his boot, condescendingly but without interest. This isn't malice, it's nature, a cardinal fire sign, meaning an initiator, always at the center, always in motion, always demanding that the world revolves around it. It doesn't control, it attracts, and those nearby gradually lose their sense of self. A wife stops dreaming, thinking only of his success. A friend tells stories only to elicit his laughter. A colleague stays silent, even when they know the right answer. Why is this terrifying? Because the blinding isn't momentary. It lasts. It seeps in. A person living near a lion begins to feel like a shadow. They forget they can shine on their own. They start breathing only when the lion allows it. Its approval is like oxygen. Its gaze is like a judgment. Vanga saw this isn't cruelty. This is a force that doesn't ask but takes. It isn't domineering. It's indispensable. And when someone becomes indispensable, others cease to be needed, especially to themselves. That's how will disappears. Not with a blow, not with a shout, with silence, with light, with presence. The lion doesn't rule. It displaces and leaves behind not enemies, but the blind. When the lion loves, it erases boundaries. This is not a metaphor, not an exaggeration. It literally erases where it ends and you begin. Imagine a woman is choosing a dress. The lion looks, frowns, says, quote, 0. She laughs, changes her dress. The next time, she puts on black herself. Then, she stops asking herself, quote, 1, and starts asking, quote, 2. This isn't control. In his opinion, it's care. He turned, quote, 3, he cut, quote, pawns, he gathered, quote, 70, but in reality, he rebuilds you. In his own image, he chooses who you socialize with. Quote, 6, he decides if you should take a new job. Quote, 7, he even thinks for you about how to raise children. Quote, chaiti, and each time, it's not an order. It's, quote, 9, it's love. It's, quote, 11, but gradually you stop making decisions. First, small ones, what to wear, what to say. Then, big ones, where to travel, who to become, even who to be. You don't feel yourself losing yourself because he's there, because he praises, because he's there. And then, one day, you stand before a mirror and don't recognize your eyes. They are empty, quiet. As if you live in a house where everything is yours, but you are a stranger. The lion's love is not a union. It is absorption. He doesn't see you as a separate person. He sees an extension of himself, a complement, a reflection. And if you don't shine the way he needs you to, he doesn't get angry. He's just disappointed. And a lion's disappointment is worse than a shout. It's silence. It's a glance away. It's a sudden absence of warmth. as if someone turned off the light in the room, and you start to change. Not for yourself, for him to look again. That's how it works. The lion doesn't bind you with chains, he gives you a golden cage. You can leave. But beyond its confines, you feel you lose significance. He doesn't forbid you from being yourself, he just makes it so that being yourself is unprofitable. Because only when you are, his version of you, does he say, quote 12, and everything else is, quote 13. Vanga saw, this is not villainy, this is the terrible power of love that does not unite but dissolves. The lion does not love a partner. He loves his own love, and when he says, quote 14, he is sincere. It's just that the you in his head has long since ceased to be you, but the person he made you into. The lion doesn't shout, it freezes. Here's how it happens. You're arguing about something important. You speak, you explain, you try to get your point across. The lion listens, stays silent, not a word, not a glance. Then just leaves. Doesn't slam the door, doesn't shout, disappears. The next day, silence. A call, no one answers. A message, no reply. As if you are air. You think, quote 16, no. Upset is an emotion. It's alive. It can be fixed. The lion isn't upset. The lion disconnects. He doesn't punish, he erases. To him you no longer exist, and this isn't for an hour, not for a day. It's forever. Until you become a different person. Until you understand your place. Until you show that you are ready to serve his light again. Imagine, a colleague suggests an idea in a meeting. The lion rejects it, not rudely, just irrelevant. The colleague argues, proves their point. The lion stays silent. The next meeting, the colleague isn't there. Their project has been reassigned. Their name is no longer mentioned. He didn't say, you're fired. He just stopped noticing you. And in the lion's world, if you're not noticed, you don't exist. His silence isn't emptiness. It's a verdict. He doesn't get angry, he withdraws. That's how he controls. Not with shouts, not with threats, with disappearance. You feel yourself falling into an abyss. You call, you text, you show up at his door, you want to explain, to make amends, but he looks right through you. Like furniture, like dust. This is more terrifying than any scandal, because in a shout, there's still a connection. In silence, a rupture. The lion doesn't forgive. He replaces. He doesn't hold grudges, he erases memory. And when he turns his back on you, that's not the end of the conversation. That's the end of you, in his reality. Why is this so dangerous? Because you start to rot inside. You don't know what you did. You don't know how to come back. You don't know if you're alive to him, and he lives, calmly, brightly, without you, and the longer he stays silent, the more you lose yourself. You stop sleeping, you stop eating. You start analyzing every word, every gesture. Where did I go wrong? What did I say? But there was no mistake. You just stopped being useful, or became too independent, or dared to question him. Mom, that's all. His silence isn't weakness. It's a weapon. It doesn't wound. It kills slowly. Without noise, without blood, you just disappear. Vanga saw, this is the seventh reason. The lion doesn't seek revenge. He erases. The lion gives and demands eternal gratitude. Not just gifts, but investments. In you, in your dependence. He's not generous. He's far-sighted. Imagine a childhood friend wants to become a doctor, but has no money. The lion says, quote 20, joy, tears, gratitude from the bottom of his heart. Years pass. The friend studies. The lion nods. And out of quote 21, and then an argument. Minor. About a movie, about politics, about anything. The friend expresses his opinion. The lion doesn't shout, just says quietly, well, yes, you can think that, of course. After all, I paid for your education. A blow, not to the face, to the heart, to pride, to self-esteem. You are no longer just a person who expressed a thought. You are a debtor. You are a project he sponsored, and now you must agree. Because otherwise, you are ungrateful. His generosity isn't a gesture of kindness, it's a strategy. He gives to bind, so you never forget. Without me, you wouldn't be who you are. He pays for your vacation, for your apartment renovation, for your wedding. All with a smile, with extravagance, with flair. And then years later, at the most inopportune moment, he remembers it. Not directly, with a hint, a glance, a phrase. Remember how I helped you out? And you freeze. You can no longer argue. You can no longer say no. Because the debt isn't in money. It's in guilt, inside, for life. The lion doesn't keep a tally in a notebook. He keeps it in your head. He implants the thought, Bunch's quote 27 times, and this thought grows. Like a weed, it chokes your shuki, quote 28 tension. He doesn't ask for money back. He asks for loyalty back. Adoration, a place at his feet. If you try to break free, he doesn't get angry. He's surprised. How? After everything I've done for you? And you feel like a traitor again. Even if you just want to be yourself, his gifts are invisible chains, beautiful, shiny, golden. But chains, they don't jingle, but they don't let you move. The lion's generosity isn't weakness, it's strength. Soft, invisible, but strong as steel. He doesn't buy things, he buys loyalty, debt, a soul. And the more he gives, the more he takes. Your right to freedom, to make mistakes, to have your own opinion. Vanga saw, this is the 8th reason. The lion doesn't help, he includes you in his legend. You don't live your own life, but as a chapter in his biography, the lion doesn't betray, he owns. Imagine, you and your partner are walking down the street. Suddenly, he notices you smiling at a passerby. Not flirting, just a kind smile. The lion stays silent, but his face, ice. Then he says, quote 30, he's not jealous. He doesn't shout in quote 31. No, to him it's not infidelity, it's a breach of order. You are his, not in the sense of love, but in the sense of belonging. Like a ring on a finger. Like a car in a garage. Like a name on an apartment door. He won't spy on you, won't put a bug on your phone, won't check your messages. He doesn't need to, because you already live in a system where he decides everything. Where do you work? He'll suggest. Who are your friends? He'll sense who's not of his kind. Who can you talk to? He'll show you with a glance. And if you try to step out of bounds, there won't be a scene. There won't be a scandal. There will be silence. There will be withdrawal. There will be the phrase, Ian quote 33, and you'll start to doubt yourself, your choices, your mind. Because the lion isn't a dictator. He is the center of the universe. And if you're near him, you're in his orbit. And an orbit isn't freedom. It's a path in a circle. Around him, he doesn't say, you are my property. He shows, you are part of my glory. And that's scary, because you're not in prison. You're on a pedestal. You're praised, adorned, caressed. But you can't turn your head away, because your gaze must be directed at him. Only at him. If you laugh with others, it's betrayal. If you cry without him, it's defiance. If you make a decision, he doesn't get angry, he's surprised. Quote 36. His loyalty isn't about love, it's about status. He doesn't cheat, because he doesn't need to. He doesn't look for someone else, because you are already his. And if you leave, he won't beg. He'll say, you just stopped being yourself, and he'll believe it, because in his world, you were never separate. You were an extension of his light, his shadow, his reflection. To be with a lion is to disappear, not immediately, not painfully, quietly, as if you yourself decided to cease to exist. But in reality, you were simply replaced by someone who will shine only from his light. Vanga saw, this isn't cruelty, this is absolute power, not through fear, through a sense of duty, through love that doesn't ask, but takes. The lion doesn't betray, he owns, and he does it in such a way that you yourself ask to become someone's property. The lion doesn't lead, he commands. He doesn't ask, doesn't consult, doesn't discuss, he decides, and waits for you to say, quote 38. Imagine a team, a project, an urgent decision. Everyone is sitting, thinking, arguing. Someone suggests one path, someone else, another, and then the lion stands up. Doesn't shout, speaks calmly. We're doing it this way. And sits down, period. Discussion over. He doesn't explain, doesn't argue. His word is law, because he is the center, because he is the light, because it cannot be otherwise. If someone tries to object, the lion doesn't get angry. He looks, just one glance, as if to say, quote 40. And the person falls silent, not because they're scared, but because they felt, they overstepped, broke the order, took the wrong place. With a lion, you cannot be an equal. You can be nearby, you can be loyal, you can be an adornment to his success, but not an equal. He doesn't inspire like a movie hero. He demands. His leadership isn't an invitation. It's an order disguised as confidence. He says, quote 41. But what he really means is, quote 42, in the family, it's the same. Where will we go on vacation? The lion will say. What will we watch tonight? The lion will choose. How to raise children? The lion knows. He doesn't ask his wife, quote 43. He says, quote 44. And it's not rudeness. It's a habit. The habit of being the only voice that matters. A friend, he must laugh when the lion laughs. He must praise when the lion praises. He must hate those whom the lion has rejected. Because friendship with a lion isn't an alliance, it's service. If you don't applaud at the right moment, you're a traitor. If you don't admire, you're a stranger. If you're silent, you're against him. He doesn't see this as evil. He sincerely believes, I lead, you follow. I shine, you bask. I am the leader, you are the people. It's natural. It's right. It's like the sun and the grass. The grass doesn't ask the sun, can you shine in another direction? With a lion, you are either on the throne beside him, like a trophy, a symbol of his greatness, or you are simply dust beneath his feet. Invisible, unnecessary, forgotten. He doesn't chase you away. He just stops noticing you. And in the lion's world, if you're not noticed, you don't exist. And the most terrifying part, you agree to it yourself. You applaud. You admire. You stay silent, because his confidence is like a magnet, because next to him you feel part of something big, because being in the shadow of a crown is still like being in power, but it's an illusion. You're not in power, you are an adornment of power. Vanga saw, this is the 9th reason. The lion doesn't lead, he demands worship and calls it work, family, friendship, love. The lion doesn't fear, he hides fear behind grandeur. He doesn't tremble, doesn't cry, doesn't admit weakness. He just becomes brighter, louder, more important. Because inside, there's emptiness, not the kind that attracts, as in previous reasons, but the kind that gnaws. Deep, old, a feeling of being insufficient, that if the crown is removed, it will turn out. There's no one there. Imagine, the lion loses his job, not fired, but not kept either. The project was cancelled, money gone, the future hazy. What does he do? He goes to friends, smiles, raises a glass, says Gawan, she quote 40 says say. He doesn't lie. He's saving himself. This isn't pride, it's a mask. He can't say, I'm scared, I don't know what will happen. Because the lion is strong, great, invincible, and if he admits fear, he ceases to be a lion. And then, who is he? His grandeur isn't talent, it's a shield. Behind it, a boy who was afraid he wouldn't be loved for who he is. He learned to play, to shine, to stand tall, to speak confidently, because otherwise he won't be noticed. And if he's not noticed, he'll disappear. He doesn't ask for sympathy. He hates it, because sympathy is a judgment. It says, quote 48, and a lion cannot be weak, so he turns a fall into a victory, a dismissal into a departure, a mistake into a strategy, loneliness into a choice. He says, quote 49, when in reality he's holding on by a thread. This isn't hypocrisy. It's survival. He believes in his legend, because without it, panic. Because inside, a constant question. What if I'm not worthy? And the brighter he shines, the further he pushes this fear away from himself. But it doesn't leave. It waits for the moment when the lion is alone, when the applause dies down, when the phone stops ringing. Then, a voice, cut out 51. That's why he demands admiration. It's not vanity, it's a test. Am I still seen? Am I still here? If praised, he lives. If silent, he dies. And then he shines brighter. To drown out the silence within. Vanga, so this is the 10th reason. The lion isn't terrifying with his strength, he's terrifying with his vulnerability. Because he who is afraid to fall is ready to cast down all who stand beside him. The lion creates so that everything is according to his rules. He doesn't draw to express himself. He draws so that the world becomes as he sees it. Not just a picture, but a command, disguised as beauty. Imagine the lion writes a play, not for the theatre, for the family, for a birthday. Everything is done on a grand scale, costumes, music, a stage in the living room. He is the author, he is the director, he is the audience, and then an actor, his brother, says a line, slightly differently, with a different intonation. Not louder, not worse, just his own way. The lion stops everything. Could 53, could 54, could 55. He doesn't argue, he doesn't explain, he just knows. Only his vision is correct, everything else is a mistake. His creativity isn't a gift, it's a test of obedience. Every stroke, every note, every word is part of his order. If you deviate, you're not creating, you're interfering. He doesn't say, let's experiment. He says, this is how it will be. Because for him, art isn't freedom. It's power, disguised as inspiration. He builds a house and decides everything himself, from the color of the tiles to the shape of the spoon. It's my style, he says. And you can only approve. If you say, what if we try blue, you'll hear, quote, 60. His projects aren't shared, they are his. You are not a co-author in them, you are an executor. You can invest, dream, work hard, but if you suddenly suggest something of your own, he won't be offended, he'll be surprised. But why? We already have my version. And this isn't vanity, it's a deep conviction. Only he sees the whole picture, only he knows how it should be. The others are details, important but secondary. In business, the same. He launches a startup, chooses everyone himself, funds everything, and when the team proposes an idea, he nods, but then does it his own way and calls it intuition. In reality, it's control. He doesn't tolerate creative chaos, because chaos is someone else's order, and someone else's order cannot exist next to him. His creativity isn't a flight. It's building an empire where all the walls are according to his blueprints, and the windows look only in the direction he indicated. Vanga saw this is the 11th reason. The lion does not create beauty. He creates submission and calls it art. The lion doesn't make friends, he surrounds himself with subjects. Imagine, it's a friend's birthday, a party, family, laughter, people who love him. The lion knows, but doesn't come. Says, oh, I have an important meeting, sorry. And 3 days later, it's his birthday. He doesn't ask, will you come? He just sends out invitations, like a king, to his court. And everyone comes, even those who were at that inconvenient birthday. Why? Because with a lion, it's not by the rules of friendship, but by the rules of power. His friends are not equals. They are his retinue. They laugh at his jokes, even if they're not funny. They praise his ideas, even if they see a mistake. They wear what he approves. Listen to the music he puts on. Talk about what interests him. And if someone says something of their own, the lion doesn't get angry. He just changes the subject, as if you weren't there. This isn't malicious intent. It's a habit of being at the center. He doesn't think, sorry, quote 66. He feels, quote 67, and if you don't stand in your place, you'll simply be replaced by someone who will stand straight, silently, with a smile. Friendship with a lion isn't about support. It's about validation. He doesn't look for someone to understand his pain. He looks for someone to say, yes, you're right, you're a genius, you're strong. If you come to him in tears, he won't hug you. He'll say, stop it, you're better than this. Because next to him, you can't be weak. Only bright, only strong, only his version of you. He doesn't forbid you from being friends with others. But if you're too close to someone, he'll feel it, and he'll start asking questions. Quote 70, he's not jealous, he's checking loyalty. His friendship is a hierarchy. You're not a friend, you're the minister of admiration. You're an advisor on his genius. You're an audience without whom the show loses its meaning. And if you suddenly stop applauding, he won't say, "You're not my friend." He'll just stop seeing you, as if you left the hall, as if you're no longer in the game, and you stay, you sit, you wait. You want to return to your place in the retinue, even if that place isn't by the heart, but at the feet. Vanga saw, this isn't greed. This is loneliness disguised as grandeur. The lion doesn't choose friends, he chooses mirrors. So that every glance reminds him, quote 72, the lion gives himself completely to get everything in return. He doesn't just help, he sacrifices time, strength, sleep, himself, but not out of kindness, but out of calculation. Imagine his mother fell ill. The lion drops everything. He takes care of her, nights by her bedside, medications, doctors, he does everything perfectly. Says, for me, this is no sacrifice. I am her son. Everyone admires him. How caring. He has a huge heart. Years pass, his mother recovers, then he asks. For something big, for something that goes against her wishes. She hesitates. He doesn't shout, he just looks, and says quietly, quote 76, into blow. Quiet but powerful, his care isn't about love, it's an investment. He invested time, effort, the image of quote 77 and now demands a return. His self-sacrifice isn't weakness. It's the most cunning form of power. Because when you sacrificed yourself, you give the other person a sense of guilt. And guilt is stronger than chains. He doesn't say, you owe me. He makes you feel, I owe him. At work, the same. The lion takes on someone else's project, works nights, saves a colleague from failure. Then a month later asks for help. The colleague says, quote 80. The lion doesn't get angry, he just sighs, I thought we were a team, after everything I did. And now the colleague feels like a traitor, even though he owes nothing. But the lion created a debt, not on paper. In emotions, his dedication isn't generosity, it's a strategy. He gives, so you can never say no. He cares, so you are obligated. He suffers, so you feel guilty. He doesn't blackmail, he just reminds you, quote 83. And that's enough, because the lion's sacrifice isn't an end. It's a beginning, the beginning of dependence, the beginning of feeling that you are always in debt. He doesn't demand payment immediately. He waits for the right moment, when you are weak, when you hesitate. And then, softly, I wouldn't ask, but you remember how I was there. And you agree. Not because you want to, but because you feel you must. That's how his love works. It's not free. It comes with a condition. The condition is, you pay him back with the same, loyalty, obedience, gratitude. If you don't pay, he doesn't get angry. He's disappointed, and a lion's disappointment is worse than a shout. It's as if you betrayed not him, but everything he did for you. Vanga saw, this isn't treachery, this is a brilliant game. The lion doesn't demand, he sacrifices and then he takes. His self-sacrifice isn't a heart. It's a promissory note, written in blood, but not his own. The lion feels and uses it against you. He doesn't just notice, he doesn't empathize, he feels your pain and turns it into leverage. Imagine you and a colleague are in negotiations. He's nervous, his voice trembles, his hands are sweating. He tries to keep it together, but it's clear. He's shaking inside. The lion sits beside him, silent, calm, confident. He sees it, feels that tremor, not by words, by the eyes, by the pauses, by how the person grips their pen. And what does the lion do? He doesn't help. He waits for the right moment. Then, softly, almost tenderly, he asks a question. It seems ordinary, but it strikes exactly at the wound. The colleague falters, stumbles, loses their train of thought, and the lion takes over, speaks confidently, clearly, like a savior, like a leader, and everyone looks at him. Only at him. He didn't attack. He just knew where the weakness was. And he pressed, quietly, imperceptibly, like a surgeon with a scalpel. His intuition isn't a gift, it's a radar. He doesn't feel to understand you. He feels to control you. He notices that you're afraid of criticism and praises someone else right in front of you. You start to get nervous, and he offers his help, conditionally, with a smile, as if saving you. He sees that you're tired, and at the most crucial moment says, quote, 85, not rudely, with, quote, 86. But you're already doubting yourself. And he takes the initiative. He feels that you value recognition and stops praising you. Just stays silent, and you start to try harder, with all your might, to hear well done again. And he waits until you do everything he wants. His feeling isn't love, it's a hunt. He doesn't listen to you, he scans, he looks for where it hurts most, where it's easiest to subjugate. In the family, the same. A partner is worried about money. The lion knows, but doesn't say, quote, 89. He says, quote, 90. And you feel you are weak, and he is strength, and you reach for him, as for support, even though he himself created that crack. His intuition isn't accidental, it's a skill developed over years. He learns to read people, not for their sake, but for his own. To be at the center, to always win. He doesn't get angry at your weaknesses, he cultivates them. Because the weak won't leave. The weak will be grateful, the weak will obey. Vanga saw this is the 12th reason. The lion doesn't feel with his heart, he feels to win, he doesn't heal your wounds. He knows where they are, and keeps his hand on the wound. Until you say, quote 91, and then he will heal. On his terms, when the lion says, quote 92, he's not asking for help, he's setting a test. Imagine evening, silence. The lion sits, looking out the window, says quietly, quote 93. You're surprised. This isn't him. He's always strong, always confident. But here, weakness, openness. You hug him, say, everything will be okay, I'm with you, you're not alone. You think he trusted you, but in reality he was testing how you would react. Would you support him? Would you be there? Would you say he's light even in the darkness? Because for the lion, vulnerability isn't a plea for salvation, it's a trap for loyalty. He doesn't tell to unburden his soul, he tells to see who will stay, who will comfort, who will elevate, who will say, you are great even when you fall. If you respond, yes, you are strong, you'll manage. You passed the test. You are one of his. If you say, maybe you should see a specialist, you failed, you offered a solution, not praise. And the lion doesn't want to solve. He wants you to worship him. His weakness isn't a breakdown. It's a strategy. He allows himself to, quote, earn, only so you will lift him in your arms. So you yourself become the one who serves. Because when the lion falls, he's still on stage. He doesn't lose control, he strengthens it. Now you feel he entrusted you with his darkness. Therefore, you are obligated to be by his side. Otherwise, you are a traitor. He doesn't cry to release emotions. He cries so you feel guilty for not noticing his pain sooner. He says, no one believes me, and looks at you, expecting you'll say, quote 100. You don't just comfort him, you swear allegiance, and he remembers who said yes, who hugged, who became a support. He keeps them close. The others he distances. Not rudely, he just stops sharing. And without access to his inner world, you become a stranger. His openness isn't a gift, it's an exam. He doesn't say, quote 103, to hear, quote 104. He waits, quote 105. Because even in falling, he must be king, and if you don't elevate him, even in weakness, he knows. You are not loyal. Vanga saw, this is the 13th reason. The lion doesn't lose strength. He disguises it, to test who is truly on his side. His vulnerability isn't a call for intimacy. It's a trap for hearts. The lion demands justice, to punish. He doesn't say, you're wrong. He says, this is unfair. And in that lies the difference between an argument and a verdict. Imagine, at a meeting, a young employee suggests that the lion's idea isn't the best path. He speaks politely, with data, without aggression. The lion stays silent. Nods. A week later, this employee receives a notice. Staff reduction. Formally, everything is by the book. But everyone in the department understands. He wasn't fired because of staff, but because he dared to rise above his shadow. The lion calls this, quote 109, he sincerely believes whoever disobeyed violated justice. And justice for the lion is when everyone knows their place, and when his word is final. He doesn't take crude revenge, doesn't shout, doesn't stomp, he simply restores balance, as if he himself became the judge, in white gloves, without a trace. He can forgive theft, he can overlook a mistake, but he won't forgive a challenge. He won't forgive a gaze that lacks worship, because for the lion, justice isn't about equality. It's about hierarchy. You are either with him in the light or against him, in the shadow. And he removes the shadow. He says, I punished him for violating ethics. But in reality, for no longer being afraid, for saying no and taking a step forward. This isn't a transgression. It's a threat, and the lion reacts like a king, who for the first time someone looked in the eyes, not as a subject, but as an equal. And then he activates the mechanism, not of anger, of justice. He gathers facts, finds violations, punishes by the rules, formally. With a smile, I'm all for fairness. His justice is revenge, dressed in the mantle of law. He doesn't hit the face. He hits the reputation, the career, the self-esteem, and he does it with a clear conscience, because he's for order. He's, quote 115, he's for high standards. But if you dig deeper, it all started with one phrase, I don't agree with that. That's what he doesn't forgive. Not disrespect, but freedom. When the lion says, you can't do that, he means, you can't do that without my permission. He's not against ideas, he's against those who propose them without his blessing. His justice isn't a shield for the weak. It's a sword for the disobedient. And the louder he speaks of honor, the quieter his revenge works. Vanga saw this is the 14th reason. The lion doesn't seek truth, he creates it, to always be right, and the only one who has the right to judge. The lion believes in himself and trusts no one else. This isn't vanity, this isn't arrogance, it's a wall, high, smooth, without cracks. Behind it, he is, and the whole world on the other side. Imagine a doctor tells a patient, a lion, that he urgently needs to get tests done. The lion listens, nods, and then dismisses it. Thank you, but I know my body. I feel everything is fine. A month later, an exacerbation. The doctor is surprised. Why didn't you come in time? I didn't believe it was serious. The lion replies, I know when something is wrong. He's not lying. He sincerely thinks his intuition is superior to science. His feelings are more important than a diagnosis. Why? Because if he admits, quote 124, he ceases to be a lion. His confidence isn't about strength. It's about survival. He can't be a student, only a teacher. Can't be a listener, only a speaker. If someone offers advice, he doesn't accept it. He evaluates it, and almost always rejects it. Because advice is a hint. You don't know something, and a lion cannot not know. At work, the same. The team suggests a different approach. With data, with examples, the lion listens, stays silent, then says, quote 125, he doesn't argue, he just knows. His I know isn't about knowledge, it's about status. I am the one who decides. The others are the ones who propose. In the family, he chooses the children's school, doesn't consult. I know what's best, I'm their father. With his wife, he decides when to have children, how to raise them, where to travel. I feel the moment, I know what's right. And if she says, what if we think about it together? He doesn't get angry, he's surprised. Don't you trust my choice? The question sounds like a reproach. You doubt, therefore you don't believe in him. And disbelief is betrayal. His self-belief isn't confidence. It's a prohibition on other opinions. He doesn't just not listen, he physically doesn't hear. Words pass him by. He waits for the interlocutor to fall silent and then states his own, as if the others a background noise. And the most terrifying thing, he doesn't notice how he loses people. Friends stop calling, colleagues stop suggesting ideas, a lover stops sharing dreams. And the lion thinks, finally, everyone understands. I know best. He's not alone, he's surrounded, but everyone is silent. Because talking to someone who doesn't listen is like shouting into emptiness. His belief isn't light. It's an insulator. It cuts him off from the world, from truth, from love, because love requires ears. And the lion only has a mouth. Vanga saw this is the 15th reason. The lion doesn't make mistakes. He simply remains alone, with his truth, which no longer concerns anyone else. The lion doesn't charm, he hypnotizes. Imagine negotiations, a cold office, 2 investors, dry figures on the screen, risks, charts. One of them is the lion. He doesn't open a folder, doesn't point at diagrams, just sits down, smiles, looks into their eyes. And suddenly, the atmosphere changes. The air warms, the tension disappears. The investor, who a minute ago said, quote, 132, suddenly nods, says, quote, 133 sung, and signs the check. What happened? The facts didn't change, the risks remained. But the person made a decision, not with reason, with their heart. More precisely, under influence, the lion doesn't convince, he infects. His charisma isn't a smile, a joke, a speech. It's energy, like a magnet. It doesn't ask, believe me. It says, you already believe. He doesn't argue. He radiates confidence, power, righteousness. And next to him, doubts seem like weakness, logic, cowardice, modesty, a sign of inadequacy. His presence is like a spell. It's not debated. It acts. You don't decide to trust. You've already trusted. Even before you realized you doubted. Why? Because the lion doesn't offer a choice. He creates reality, in which his truth is the only one, in which he is the center, and you are the one who enters his light. He doesn't say, invest in me. He looks silently, and you feel refusal is betrayal, not of business, but of faith, of the future, of yourself as a person who sees geniuses. His hypnosis isn't evil. It's beautiful, it's comfortable. It gives a sense of participation in something grand, but it's an illusion. You're not a partner. You're a hostage to a confidence you don't feel yourself. He doesn't lie. He just believes in himself so much that he makes you believe him. Even if the price is your will. Vanga saw this is the 16th and final reason. The lion doesn't persuade. He programs. His gaze isn't an invitation, it's an activation. You tune into his frequency and stop hearing your own. The lion doesn't follow destiny. He demands that destiny follows him. He doesn't seek a path. He believes the path should come to him. Imagine a young lion gets a job. Simple, office, desk, calls. A week later he says, quote 138, says, not because he can't, but because he doesn't want to be like everyone else. For him, quote 139 says, isn't work, it's betrayal. He sincerely believes the world should part for him. Doors should open by themselves, people should notice him and offer him a place in the sun. And if this doesn't happen, he doesn't think, quote 140. He thinks, quote 141. His belief in destiny isn't a humble feeling, it's a demand. He doesn't ask for a chance. He waits for recognition. Why? Because in his head, everything is already decided. He is special. Not because he achieved something, but because he feels it. And feeling, for him, is more important than facts. He doesn't build a career. He waits for a career to build itself around him. He doesn't seek love. He waits for love to come on its knees. He doesn't learn. He's sure talent is already knowledge. And when he's not promoted, not chosen, not noticed, he doesn't give up. He gets offended. At life, at the system, at the small people who don't see genius. But the most terrifying thing, he doesn't remain alone. He gathers around him those who believe in his mission. A wife who says, quote 143. A friend who nods, unquote 144. A colleague who whispers, once quote 145. They don't help, they fuel, they turn his demand into a right. He doesn't work. He'd quote 146. He doesn't make mistakes. He hasn't revealed himself yet. He doesn't fail. He's a victim of circumstances, and the longer he waits, the more he loses. Time, money, connections. But he doesn't doubt, because doubt is weakness, and a lion cannot be weak. He doesn't see the difference between I believe in myself and the world should serve me. For him, it's one and the same. His destiny isn't a path. It's a claim to exclusivity, to recognition, to worship, and if life doesn't respond, he doesn't change. He blames. Those who quote 151, those who quote 152, those who quote 153. Vanga saw, this isn't vanity, this is a rupture with reality. The lion doesn't live in the world, he lives in anticipation that the world will change for him, and until that happens, he remains in the shadows, believing himself to be the sun. The lion is not just a sign, it is an archetype. Like fire that does not warm but burns. Vanga called it, quote 154 soil, not because it is evil, but because it does not live, it rules, even when it is silent, even when it sleeps. All 16 reasons we've explored are not different diseases. They are symptoms of a single essence. The lion does not enter the world, it demands that the world enters it. Its love is not a gift, but a tribute. Its light is not warmth, but a test. It does not ask to be king. It considers it a birthright. And in this lies its grandeur. And in this lies its downfall, because he who must be above all ultimately remains alone. Without voices, without truth, without mirrors, he devours everything, others' dreams, others' will, others' love. And then, himself, because when there is no one around who dares to say no, he begins to rule over emptiness. If you are a lion, no, you are not a villain. Your strength is a gift, but a gift unrecognized becomes a curse. It does not make you bad, it makes you invisible to yourself. You are not obligated to give up your crown, but you must decide how you wear it. To elevate others or to overshadow them.